telling me, they're like, hey, like, you need to make sure he can't talk to you. And, like, you know, oh my God. Worst part about this, we're neighbors. He's my next door neighbor.
Are you
I forgot.
serious?
I forgot to mention that. Yeah, he lives right
Dude.
behind me.
Oh my
Like, I see
goodness.
him. I see his dad every single day. Whenever whenever I take my daughter to preschool every morning.
Hold on. He should probably start recording the show. There we go. Yes, this is the Advice Alien. How can I help you today?
Whitney, I am just needing to get some stuff off my chest,
Absolutely.
and
That's what I'm here for.
I feel like you would be the right person to
Oh,
talk to.
absolutely. Lay it on me. I'm here for you. And Whitney, I think we're going to get through this together today.
Thank you so much. That's
Yeah,
really nice of you
absolutely.
to say. So, basically, I am 29 years old, and I'm from Texas or whatever. But like, I met this guy like 5 years ago on Tinder, and we were we're gonna call him. What should we call him?
Let's call him Greg.
We're just gonna call him Anthony.
Okay.
So, so I met Anthony 5 years ago on Tinder, and it started out as just us hooking up or whatever. And we actually really hit things off. Like, there was a lot of chemistry, and not like the toxic chemistry that people talk about, where it's like, like, it was like we really got along with each other pretty much instantly, and we make each other laugh and all this stuff. But his mom had passed like really really recently, and he was like, oh, like, I don't think I'm really like ready for a relationship or whatever. And that seemed to be like where he wanted to go with things with me, but it wouldn't have been fair. So I really appreciated that he was like clear and transparent with that, and didn't like, like, just use me or anything like that. I really, really respected him for that. And so we went our separate ways, and I got into this 3-year long relationship with who is now like my ex-husband and father of my 3-year-old. And like, after that, I took like a year to kind of be single and heal, get my heart right and my mind right and stuff like that, focus on my motherhood, you know. And then we reconnected. Me and Anthony reconnected, and we started hanging out, but like, we were hooking up again.
Hmm.
And I didn't know that he never moved on. He kind of like laid that bomb on me like right after we had slept together, and he was like, like, he's like, you were the last person that I slept with 4 years ago. And I was like, like, it really caught me off guard, because it was like, he's conventionally a very attractive guy, and, works out. Like, I didn't understand why he wouldn't have moved on. So I asked him, I was like, well, why? And he's like, well, I don't know. I just didn't really meet anybody that I hit it off with as well as I hit it off with you. And it's not like I didn't try, but, I don't know, it just never happened. And I was like, okay. So in a way, I kind of, received that as like, I didn't really move on. And, yeah, so like, we had started, seeing each other, and like I said, I had a little girl at the time. She was only like 1 year old at that time, and, like 18 months old. So I told him, I was like, hey, like, I have a kid or whatever, and he knew about that, and he wasn't against it at all. He was just kind of like, oh, well, that's cool. So we started working out together at this gym that he goes to, and he was like, wanting to talk at the car, and then that's where it was going, and we were still sleeping together and stuff like that. And I had brought my daughter, and he met my daughter, and I told him, I was like, hey, like, I'm not really sure if I'm comfortable about you, like, getting involved with my child, because I don't really know where the relationship's going or anything yet. And he was like, well, now I feel like you're pushing me away. He's like, we spent all this time apart and stuff like that. We came back together, and now, you don't really want me involved with her. And I was like, well, it's not that. It's just like, I don't know where the relationship's going to go, because we didn't really know each other that well the first time, outside of like,
Right.
yeah. So he was like, well, I don't have a problem with her. He's like, I want to get to know her, and I want to be with you. So it seemed like an okay conversation. So I was like, all right. And, so I went and I met his family, and my daughter came, and everything was like really, really good. And like, off and on, throughout the remainder of me and his relationship, it was like the textbook anxious versus avoidant. Me being the anxious, him being the avoidant. Where it's like every time he would pull away, I would get close. Every time I would pull away, he would get close. And it was just so like addicting, if you want me to be like honest. Like it was an addiction because we were just chasing dopamine with each other. That's really what it felt like. And
That's completely understandable.
service, because I'm getting into my car really quick.
That's okay. I
So
can call you back if something happens.
okay, cool. So I'm sorry. I'm gonna wrap up the background check here in just a second, like the background info.
No, it's okay. Take all the time you need. That's what we're here for.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I'm like sweating
it's
because
okay.
this is like I've talked to my friends, like my close female friends, to death about this situation because it's just so unfortunate and sad. Um, and like I just can't. I don't know what I need to do to kind of like. Okay, so
You need to call a
basically,
green alien on the phone and talk to him about what's going on. That's what you need to do.
I guess so. I really, really hope that this kind of like I already kind of like feel like good kind of talking about this because
Oh, good.
I don't feel embarrassed right now, you know? Like
Good, good.
whenever
You
you go
shouldn't.
through stuff and you talk to your friends so much and like you just get this like level of embarrassment, like, oh God, I don't want to call them again, you know? So
Oh, absolutely. No, see, that's why I started this because I want people to feel like some sort of, solace that someone's there to listen to them and give advice if they want it. But like, I'm not going to give it if it's unwarranted.
well, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Okay, so basically, like I was saying, off and on, like it was like once a month, and it was so weird because it was like synced up like with my period. Like every time I was about to have my period, we would we would like get into these spats of like it was either from him like, oh, I don't think I'm a good guy for you, I'm just gonna hurt you, like we need to just kind of call this off, and I'm like, well, why the fuck did you involve my child and everything, you know? And then it would be me like, hey, like this isn't really going anywhere. I don't like, because I would say that because there would be these moments where I would try to kind of like initiate conversations to see where he was at because things felt stagnant and he would kind of pull away and do that pull away thing. And I'd be like, okay, so like I would bring up things like around the time of like 6 months. I think that's kind of like a good time to discuss, like, hey, like in the next year, where do you see this relationship going? Like, do you want to possibly talk about living together? Because, you know, like if I didn't have a child, especially such a young child, this would not have probably came up like at all. It would have just naturally probably happened, you know. But because I have a child, like I have to consider her stability and, you know, the kind of like people she's exposed to. And really my logic here with all of it was like, okay, she's at this age right now to where it's like if me and him break up, she's gonna forget and not really be too heartbroken about it. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
So I was trying to be a little methodical in like my approach to the situation because, you know, I'm an adult. I can heal and process or whatever, but how do you explain to a 2-year old that the person that she like would okay, so I'm going to have to backpedal a little bit.
No, you're good. You're
So
good.
so in the time of my separation, my daughter's father, like he left me with her, like abandoned us when she was 6 months old. And that was really traumatic for me, obviously. Um, and I spent a lot of time, like, you know, getting myself together and focusing on healing. Like, I felt like I was pretty appropriately, like, ready for a relationship when I got into one. But this man, Anthony, he was the first person that my daughter knew as a consistent male figure in her life. And it immediately confused her. And that's why I was like, hey, this probably isn't a good idea because she's going to think you're her dad. And he was like, well, just tell her I'm not. And I was like, okay. Like, she's not, like, she didn't get it, right? Like, to this
Hmm.
day, my
It's a little
daughter still,
complex for that age.
well, they only know mommy and daddy. Like, biologically, like, they know male versus female, and like she knew that there was something missing in the home. And whenever this man came into our life, and it was just like, when I say it was like rain in the desert when he came into our life, that's literally how it felt. Like it was just the most like blissful feeling to just like have an extra person around, like not even living in the home but just around, so I can like go to the bathroom and not have tiny little fingers trying to reach into the toilet or whatever, you know what I mean? Just like little
Yeah,
little
yeah.
tiny things like that that you really take for granted and don't understand the value of them until like you have them. And it's like it was and they just, those two, like me and him clicked, but those two, oh man, they clicked. It was just like peas and carrots. They just belong together. And
That's the
you
heartbreaking
know,
part because that's the most important thing.
dude, it's gut wrenching. Um, because like she still is so confused why he's not around. Like we
Hmm.
broke up pretty much a month ago. Like it was done and not gonna come back together. And the logic that it makes no sense to me, and I just don't understand why things went the way that they did if they were so good apparently. And it's like I tried to talk to him about it and understand. Like I just wanted to understand.
Hmm.
Um because I was the one that kept, like towards the end, I was the one that was like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. And I would, remove him from my social media. I would like, tell him, just please leave me alone. Like I don't want to talk to you anymore. Let me get over this, whatever. Um, he would go out of his way to contact me and be like, hey, um, I saw this and I thought of you, or just something to get my attention, to get me to communicate with him again. And the last time that he and I broke up, I blocked him on everything. Like I blocked him, and I never wanted to do that because I didn't. I really wish I didn't have to do that, you know. But whenever you need like space that's not negotiable, you kind of have to do that. And that's what my friends were telling me. They're like, hey, like you need to make sure he can't talk to you, and like, you know, oh my god. Worst part about this, we're neighbors. He's my next door neighbor.
Are you
I've heard,
serious?
yeah, he lives right
Dude.
behind me.
Oh my
Like I
goodness.
see his dad every single day whenever whenever I take my daughter to preschool every morning.
You need to make a movie about this. I would watch that.
It would be like one of those like dry humor shows, not like The Office, but like
Like
the
Office Space?
like
Oh, okay. Okay, okay. That makes a lot more sense.
like towards
I don't think Office Space would make sense.
but like so I blocked him on everything. And the way that whole thing had went was like there was a few days. So like that Friday, um he came over and we were talking, or it was like a Thursday or something. So the day matters because I had my daughter whenever, um like that night, so we didn't continue the conversation. So that Thursday, we were talking about things. I was like, is there like literally no way that this can work? Like, we were just talking about it, talking about living together. And because he says, like, he had never told me that he loved me. Like, he never told me the entire, like, 8, 9 months that we were together. He never uttered the words, I love you, I'm in love with you. But his whole thing is like, I am showing you all the time how I feel about you. And I never understood that, and I thought it was so fucking weird. And all my friends were like, dude, no, like, why are you putting up with that? If it bothers you and he doesn't care, like, what? And it's like, I realized how much I let my friends kind of like influence my emotions and my decision making and things, because I didn't want to block him, you know what I mean?
Right,
But
right.
like, so that Thursday we were talking about things, it went fucking nowhere. He was pretty much exhausted by the end of the conversation, was just like, dude, I just don't think that like I'm ready for this. Kind of like, my friend had said something to me earlier today, was like, um like I owe I owe him because he owes his girlfriend so many things. It's like, well, I feel like I owe her this stuff. Like I owe her a house, I owe her a family. I
Hmm.
feel like he really felt that way too, and he couldn't articulate it as well as my friend had. And he was like, look, I'm just not ready for this. Like I thought that I could do it and I thought that I could keep up with it, but like I can't. And I didn't understand what the fuck that meant, because I was like, dude, I don't care if you are not in the best career field that you want to be in right now. I don't care that you are having car trouble right now. Like I don't care about any of that. I only want to be with you, and I want to be with you for who you are, not for what you can give to me right now, because I know that that's probably going to come later. And he's like, well, I don't feel comfortable settling down with you when I have nothing to offer you, because I don't know when I'm going to be able to. And I was like, okay, well, that's fine. Like, okay, that's fine. So a few days roll around, the weekend rolls around, we're not talking. But I asked him, like, hey, can you please watch my daughter on Tuesday, because I have class in the evening, and my normal childcare couldn't watch my daughter. So
Right, right.
him and his sister, his younger sister, they came and watched my daughter, and everything was fine. That night we were talking, and he was telling me, like, debriefing me about babysitting or whatever. And he was like, this is really sad for me, but I just don't, like, he told me, like, the whole thing, like, I just don't think that this is what either of us expected or hoped for, and this is just kind of where we're at, but I just don't think that this is going to be able to work. And I was like, okay, like, I don't want to stress you out, I don't want to create any more problems for you, like, I just want things to be okay. And he was like, okay. And then that was it, and he didn't say anything to me, like, the next couple days. And I blocked him, because I was like, okay, I'm grieving now. And I blocked him for a couple weeks. My water went out, and I was like, I really need to brush my teeth and I need to shower. So I did the hard thing, and I unblocked him, and I was like, hey, I'm really sorry to, like, come out of nowhere like this, but the water is shut off over here. Can I come across the street to your house and brush my teeth and take a shower really quick? And he's clearly very upset. This was like a few days ago. He
Hmm.
was like, no. He's like, I guess. He said, I guess, but I don't want to see you. I'm really upset that you blocked me like that. I thought things were going to go back to normal and, be okay, and things were going to get better. And then, all of a sudden you blocked me out of nowhere, and you weren't answering my calls. You weren't answering my messages or anything like that. So I thought something was wrong, and I had to go on my sister's Instagram to see if you were still alive or whatever, which is just bullshit, because, like I said, we're neighbors. He could see that I was home, right?
Right. So
But
he's.
he's
Oh
mad
no,
at me
sorry.
now,
Yeah. Um.
and I just don't know what to do.
I don't think. I don't think you should be thrown off by his shield being thrown up like that. But like, I think you should really kind of like open the field of communication back up with him. Just say like, hey, this is why I did this, and this is like my reasoning for it. But I don't know if that's gonna like necessarily help everything. Does that make sense?
So I did. He
Oh,
was like, I'm
okay.
mad that you blocked me like that. And I was like, well, if you are open to hearing why, I explained why. And he said, well, you should have just asked me to give you space, and I would have given you space. But I can tell you right now, that was a lie. Like, he
Oh,
wouldn't have been, like, he said, well, I would have given you space. No, he wouldn't have, because I told him, I was like, well, in the past, you haven't done that. So I did what I had to do, because the space was not negotiable at that point. And he was like, okay, well, if it was not negotiable and you were going to block me, at least you could have let me know that you were going to block me, and I wouldn't have been, like, over here wondering what happened. And I was like, I guess that makes sense, you know? But I was just really like, okay. And he's like, well, you should have just left me the fuck alone. He's like, I wasn't eating. I haven't gone to the gym. And when I say, like, the gym is his life, it's his life. That's the only thing that gives him a sense of purpose and self-worth, is going to the gym. And that's probably enough for me to understand where he's at, like, as an individual, you
hmm.
know? And especially towards our relationship, like, he clearly has a lot of things that he needs to heal and, like, work through in himself from his past, like, not to put all of his business out there, but, like, I understand why he's not ready, but at the same time, it's like, I just feel so overwhelmed with, like, grief. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. You are doing the right thing by keeping the communication open. In my opinion, I think. What do you? Let me ask you this: what do you want out of this?
What do I want out of this, like, this phone call, or out of the relationship?
Both, yeah.
the phone call, I don't know, I guess just validation that I'm not like holding on to something delusionally.
No, because
Um,
the heart knows what the heart wants, but we can't always have what we want, and that's the hardest part. Healing from that is the hardest part that no one really likes to talk about. I think you're doing the right thing, though.
yeah, and like he asked me to leave him alone. So that's what
Hmm.
I'm doing.
Right.
And like I was just at the mall and I saw something that I know that he would have really, really loved. And I took a picture of it and I sent it to his sister and stuff like that. Um I what I want out of the relationship, I just really feel like what I like so I'm gonna go a little tangential here for a minute if I haven't been already. I'm
No, it's okay.
like,
I'm really into the story. I'm all ears.
oh, thank you so much. So, okay, to be a little tangential, I'm Christian, and I believe in God, and I feel like in prayer, God has confirmed so many things about this relationship. Like it's not even funny. Like it's like there's no explanation as to why these things have happened. Like for example, me being his neighbor, I was living in a completely different complex, and then all of a sudden, there was like this horrible mold problem that came about, and I had to leave really abruptly. I had like 7 days to pack up my apartment, find somewhere else to go, and move. And lo and behold, I found somewhere to go. I did look in his complex because he and I both agreed it would probably just be like better, save gas, we can hang out, stuff like that. Also, it was better, like just living situation wise, everything was just better. And God came through in prayers because I was like, God, just like, if this is meant to work out, like, just please make it work out. And the unit that I got, he and I did not know where it was at, but it ended up being like he was like, "Hey, that's my house." Like he was like, "Dude, this is right next to my house." And I was like, "No way." And he was like, "Yeah, that's so weird." I just don't believe in coincidences. Like I feel like saying something is a coincidence is a way of just kind of like nodding to God's anonymity. You know what I
The
mean?
divine intervention is a real thing. I could talk about
Right.
that in
And
my own
that's just
experiences.
that's just one of the things, right? Like that's just one thing. And there was other times where I would just like we would break up and then he would come over the next day and I would pray before he would walk over really quick. I'm like, God, if this is supposed to work out and this is my husband or whatever you want for me, make him sneeze. Like just make him sneeze. Just something small like that that he would never know. It's a natural thing. The first thing he does when he walks into my room and sits down in the bed is sneeze three times.
Oh my gosh, 3 times.
And 3 times. And I'm like, oh my God. So it's like the fact that he and I are not together right now makes absolutely no sense.
It's
And
not.
it's
It's not meant to happen right now. It's gonna. It might happen again.
dude, and that's so like that's such an uncomfortable feeling because you never know what's going to happen. Like look what happened to my life in a matter of 4 years, much less like however long it's going to take. If this is the person that I'm supposed to be with, like I don't like I'm like right now I feel like I'm operating in a place of just like anxiety because it's like, oh my God, like I don't want to repeat any bad choices or anything or ruin whatever. And I also don't want to like live in delusion. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
maybe like I don't know, that's kind of the weird thing about spirituality is you don't want to believe like you don't you need to make sure you still have a good grip on reality, and reality right now is like, hey, you guys are not together. And I just like dude, it's cutting me up pretty bad, and I
Right.
know that it's bothering him too, right? So it's like
Do
I don't
you
know.
believe? Do you believe that if it's meant to be, it will happen?
I do.
I think you're in this position where, like, if you do believe it is divine intervention, I think you should use this time to keep growing as a person because you can't avoid him. The guy lives like within walking distance of you, so he's always going to be there. It's up to you now to be like, hey, I'm strutting my stuff. I'm a baddie. I'm a bad bitch. That's what I'm going to be. And I think
Yeah.
this is your time to be yourself.
Yeah,
Oh,
and like
good,
I really really have been doing that. Like I
good.
have been like I did kind of stopped going to the gym myself, but that's for like my own health reasons. But I got like this massive inheritance from a family member dying, and well, not massive, but I mean like it's keeping me
Enough to be
comfortable.
comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of like, oh wow, like my financial stuff is breaking through. Like I'm just like I'm having all these other things come through, but like the only thing that like I really like, I don't know, dude. Like I feel like ever since I was born, I've always just wanted to be like a wife and a mom. Like I've just wanted to put little cute notes in my husband's lunchbox and make him his favorite thing and send him off. And like, that's literally the dream for me. And like the fact that I'm a single mother right now is just so disorienting for me, and it feels like super unnatural. I feel like I'm just in this state of like hyper functionality, providing for my child, providing for myself, like keeping my house in order. It's just like it's not realistic for one. I mean, it's realistic obviously because I'm doing it, but it's just not. It doesn't
It's
feel.
hard.
Yeah, it's hard. It doesn't feel sustainable to do this forever and then like still be the same person after. Like I feel
No,
like I'm all like I run into caregiver burnout a lot, and just like I don't know, dude, it just feels really really messed up that this is like where it's at right now. And you're right, I do kind of need to like follow my own advice. So like if it's meant to happen, it'll happen.
yeah, and I don't want you to have to change yourself for anybody. If you're working on your self growth and whatnot, let that be a part of the package if he decides to come back. You're ultimately opening up the door for him to come back anytime, right?
I wouldn't say that. I feel like it would need to be discussed, especially if it's anytime soon.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
Go ahead.
that's still that being said, I think you keeping the door open is probably healthy if you still wanted to make it happen, especially if both of you want to. If you both want to, you'll make it work.
Yeah, I think so too. And like I really just feel like I'm struggling with a lot of fear right now. Like I'm afraid that like everything that I felt is just like not real. Like everything that I feel for this person, and like to be honest, dude, the entire time I was with my ex-husband, it was like in the back of my mind, it's like, well, I wonder how he's doing, or like I hope he's okay. And it wasn't every day, but it was like often enough to be like, okay, like clearly there was something there with this person in me, like this person had an effect on me to where like we sought each other back out after all that time. And it's just like it just I'm having a hard time making sense of things because it's like people say all the time, "Oh, follow your heart," right? But like as a Christian, it's like God's like, "Hey, I know your heart, but you can't trust your heart because it's deceitful above all things." So it's
That's
like,
that's sorry, I was gonna say that divine intervention again, it also goes the other way.
yeah,
Temptation is real.
yeah, dude, and it's just really like if I really feel like if I just wasn't somebody's mom, I'd probably be dealing with this a lot better because it's like, or maybe not. I don't know. Because
Maybe I think she was meant to be there to make you grow as a person, and it sounds like you're an amazing mom
thanks, I really appreciate that.
because you have to
I
put her first, and you are.
Yeah, and dude, I have no regrets about anything having my kid. Like, she is the coolest thing that's ever happened to me, the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like, she's a miracle. I wasn't even supposed to have children, like, ever, so she's not even remotely the issue here. I just feel like sometimes, like, because I've been going through my own emotional crap, I haven't really been able to be super present with her, you know, and
Yeah,
that kind of
and
stuff. But,
she'll always understand. She'll always understand that. Like even at a young age, you and her will have a bond that will never go away. So I wouldn't worry too much about her. You're doing all the right things. If you wanted validation out of this call, I think you deserve it and some. I think you're
thanks.
doing the right thing. Don't give up. Don't lose hope on that because I think love is a beautiful thing. But if it doesn't work out for any reason, it's not your fault. That's what I want you to take away from this.
Thanks. And believe like it's my fault or his fault. I know that we both had our own parts to play because I have this tendency to be avoidant myself.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I have, I have a disorganized attachment style. Like whenever I'm hurt, like like I'll burn a bridge right there and not even think twice about it until like afterward.
But you didn't do
And
that
then I'm
with
like, oh,
him. But you didn't do that with him. That's the important part.
no, I didn't. And that's what's crazy is that like I never ever did the things that I used to do. Like I did everything I possibly could to do it the quote unquote right way. Like I tried to do the conflict resolution, the communication, the patience, and just like I tried so hard to meet him where he was at. And like you're right, it probably isn't like the right time or anything like that. I just like I don't know. From a man's perspective, what can you kind of like offer from whatever I said, like insight or anything to like because you had said something like, "Oh, we'll leave the line of communication open." Like, I think that's probably a good thing. Do you think
Yeah,
that's because he probably wants? You think he probably wants me to talk to him?
I think he would if in his shoes. I'm not gonna lie. Things can get really complicated in a relationship. It's hard to pinpoint one person's specific issue whenever we're all really complicated. Well, y'all are all really complicated human beings. I'm just an alien observing from space. But yeah,
Yeah,
y'all
right.
seem very complicated, and I don't think communication is anyone's strong suit. And I think he's wanting you to keep the communication open, but he's wanting to see like if it's worth it because he's keeping his guard up. He didn't say I love you because he doesn't. I don't think he said it because he's keeping his guard up. Not no fault of his own. That's his own trauma that's doing that. It's not you that's doing that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, is there a reason? Like, do you not love me? And he'd be like, "Well, I don't feel comfortable saying that to somebody."
Yeah, that's
And I
trauma.
feel like it's one of the most important things that you can say to someone. And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, you tell Frankie that you love her." He's like, "Well, yeah, but she's a baby." And I was like, "Yeah, she's a baby, but I mean, I don't understand the difference." Like, just there's so many things about his logic that didn't really make sense to me.
I
And
think
I'd be
I
like, "Okay,
can
well,
offer light on that actually, if you don't mind me interjecting there. Because
yeah,
I do the same thing. We're all stubborn at one point or another, but the thing is like our definition of love. Like I love I love our dog so much. I would die for him. He's the precious light of my life, and he's everything to me, and I love him to death. But I don't love him the same way I love my partner, because that's it's like two different things. So him not saying it to you is not because he doesn't. It's because he's just got his guard up because he's wants to make sure it's the real thing. I think you doing what you're doing and keeping the communication open on top of that is really going to help you guys relationship. Hopefully, I can't promise anything, but it sounds like that would probably be the best.
something that I'm afraid of is that like he's like, "Well, you should have just left me alone." Something that I'm afraid of is that was like him saying something but not actually meaning it.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Like he's mad and whatever, and he wants me to kind of like chase, which
Yeah.
I would hate that if that's what that was, and I'm not going to feed into it because I don't like that stuff, you
You
know?
remember that song by Seosin Voices?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He,
can't
right,
different
right.
voices. We're fighting with the ones we love. Yeah, it's true
Yeah.
though. It's true.
And like I don't want to feed into that, right? Like if he says
No.
you should have just left me alone, I was like, all right, I have no problem leaving you alone. I will leave you alone for the rest of your life. You know,
Oh,
like that's
don't
really
don't take it
where.
that far. But yeah,
But I mean, that's just the kind of person that I am. And then also, oh my God, you have Instagram, right? Just like constantly bombarding my nervous system with like, oh, a divine masculine this or avoidant attachment that. This is how you get your man back. Da 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 da. Whether I listen to it or not, it's just like constant influx of information. Like I've gotten to a point where like I want to smash my cell phone, like, or I deleted the apps because I'm just like, okay, I'm having like social media overload because it's really not helping. My
mm.
algorithm clearly knows that I'm going through a breakup, and it's like not helpful. So I just really feel like I'm constantly like vulnerable to being influenced and easily influenced to just kind of like go one way or the other. And I think that's why I needed to talk to an
Yeah.
alien my problems, because it's like I don't want to pull away too far to where he knows like, okay, well, this is over, this is done with, but I also don't want to suffocate him
I don't think
whenever he does.
I think you need to follow your heart. You're doing the right thing. And if you change yourself for someone else, I don't think it's the right thing to do. I don't think you need to change a single thing about yourself. If you want to play cat and mouse with him and he wants to play too, like the dopamine thing y'all are talking about, then go ahead and keep playing because life's weird, man. I ended up taking over this guy's body, and he was in such a bad spot, and now I'm doing the show, and I'm hoping that this fixes his life and other people's lives too. Not fixing, but like offers like you know what I mean. I can't word anymore.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much for calling, and I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Bye
I
bye.
I love you, advice aliens.
Oh, thank you. Bye.
Hey,
You too.
thank you for listening to me.
Absolutely. All right. Bye.
Bye.